Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with the 5 worst Beethoven conductors. You know, it really is kind of necessary to do this because there has been so much Beethoven recorded in the past few decades. I mean, complete cycles of symphonies just pop out one after the other. And, most of them are sort of fair to middling. There's an average, decent sort of interpretive perspective that a lot of them share. The period instrument ones are all sort of periody and cold and fast. The ones that aren't are sort of traditionally slower and warm, and none of them are terribly interesting. Excuse me. But they get the job done. Most of the time, they get the job done. There are some, however, which are uniquely repulsive and bizarre, and some people might like them precisely because they're just like perverse and strange. But, the problem with perverse and strange is that it gets old very quickly. I mean, that's the bottom line. You start out, it's okay, it's fun, it's peculiar. You're like, oh, isn't that interesting? It's a party record. But then you have to live with it. And when you really want the emotionally gripping experience that a Beethoven symphony should be, perverse and strange just doesn't cut it. Not, once you've gotten past the perversity and the strangeness. So anyway, here are 5 really crappy Beethoven conductors, I think. And I'd be very interested to hear your list, too. And a thoughtful list, folks. Don't just throw out a name because you want to be provocative, because that's not going to cut it. It's got to be some sort of, logic behind it. Anyway, Roy Goodman. Roy Goodman on Nimbus. It was one of the earliest Beethoven cycles out on period instruments. I think it may have been the first, with the Hanover Band, and it was terrible. Oh my goodness, it had virtually no redeeming qualities. It was fast. It was expressionless. It was horribly recorded. I mean, the one interesting thing about it was that it was one of the few performances where you could actually hear the clarinets at the beginning of Beethoven's Fifth. It does have clarinets. The opening is for clarinets and strings. You never hear the clarinets. You can't hear the clarinets. There's no way in hell you should be able to hear the clarinets. Well, you heard the clarinets, which tells you all you need to know about the satisfactoriness of the string section and the string playing. It was just a mess. So he's definitely on the list as like horrid. Next, totally opposite, as far from Goodman as you could get, Sergiu Celibidache. He should never touch music from the classical period. He is like the kiss of death when it comes to anything in sonata form. That was not his way of handling music. He had no sense of drama, no sense of forward motion, precious little sense of rhythm, and he just took everything at the same excruciating, slow, lugubrious tempo with, occasionally eruptive moments like shocking timpani for one bar or some strangeness of balance or color. But, oh my God, they are somnolescent, absolutely inimical to Beethoven's style of expression. There is nothing there. And of course, he had all the arrogance in the universe. He thought he was being, brilliant and fabulous. And of course, he has his groupies who think that he can do no wrong. But his Beethoven was a disgrace. And he did a lot of it. It just got worse and worse and worse as time went on. And it got slower and slower and slower. So, let's get rid of him. He was disgusting. Next, Kurt Masur. Now, Kurt Masur did a couple of Beethoven cycles, at least 2, maybe 3 at one point in his career. He was famous for using one of those sort of intermediate critical editions of the symphonies, the one that restored the extra repeat of the scherzo in the Fifth Symphony. That was, I think, his last Beethoven cycle. He had a great German orchestra, the Gewandhaus, which did a stunning Beethoven cycle under Franz Konvichny. And he was just the dullest thing that ever picked up a baton. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. You can say anything you want to say about the traditional German approach and this, Kapellmeister thing and this and that and whatever. It was just a snooze fest. It was excruciatingly dull. really, really dull. And that is the way it remained. I mean, it was really, really second rate. Next, another German disaster, Hans Knappertsbusch. You know, Knappertsbusch, however lovable he may have been, and people loved him. I mean, because he was relaxed and funny and told dirty jokes and hated to rehearse and didn't care how the orchestra played. So he was fine for Wagner. He really was. He understood the music. He knew how to pace it. Everyone just got together and had a schmooze fest. Beethoven demands more than that. It requires a measure of discipline. It requires a rehearsal or two. It requires energy. And, he was the sloppy Celibidache. Say what you will about Celibidache. He wasn't sloppy. He rehearsed everything to the point where all of the life got sucked out of it entirely. Well, Knappertsbusch was just the opposite. Knappertsbusch just let it all hang out, and at excruciatingly slow tempos, it normally just fell apart. I mean, he did an eroica that was so, so terrible, but all of his Beethoven was just mostly awful. I mean, for the most part, it was really, really bad. Just unlistenably bad. Badly recorded, badly played, badly conducted, just sort of embarrassing. It really was. And he made a career doing, the German standards, Beethoven, Brahms, and all that stuff. Wagner was practically the only thing he was good at. Everything else was just a catastrophe. And then last but not least, something more recent, Mikhail Pletnev. Pletnev is just perverse. Perverse for no reason. I mean, stupid perverse. There are people who do perverse things in Beethoven. Stokowski could reorchestrate it and do weird. But, usually there was some sort of method to his madness. Pletnev had no method. It was just speed up, slow down, stop, start. It's unbelievably silly. Just really embarrassingly dumb conducting when it came to his Beethoven. The opening of the Pastoral Symphony, da 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 that kind of thing. Just these gratuitous, manneristic foolishness, which is interesting because he does a lot of the same stuff when he plays the piano, but somehow that works. It could be because it's him. It's all coming from him, and he's in total control. Whereas as a conductor, he was never really, he's not a great conductor, generally speaking, and he doesn't make the orchestra believe in what he's doing in the same way that he believes in what he's doing. So his Beethoven cycle on Deutsche Grammophon was just beyond atrocious. It was an embarrassment. And so there you have it, the 5 worst Beethoven conductors. Now, I can think of a few others who might well make up their own list, and I'm very curious to see who you bring to the table as the 5 worst Beethoven conductors. Seriously, give it some thought. And keep on listening, friends. Thanks for joining me. Take care.